Greetings and welcome to In Depth. I'm Dike Rostant. I want you to envision an award aiming to honor those making significant and positive contributions to the environment. It exists in the form of the Greenleaf Awards from the Environmental Management Authority. Now, in 2023, the focus will be on youth specifically, and to speak more to it, we have the Environmental Management Authority's Senior Public Education Officer, Nadia Nanan, who joins us now. Thank you for making the time, Ms. Nanan. Give us a little rationale, a little overview of the Greenleaf Awards. Thank you.
Okay, well, the Greenleaf Awards is one of the programs of the EMA that was introduced, I think, in 1998. It was introduced to recognize nationals of Trinidad and Tobago who would have made a significant contribution to environmental management in our country, as well as those who may have been very successful in bringing substantial environmental issues to the forefront and bringing international attention to the problems and solutions regarding environmental issues. So it was initially an annual event, but it has become biennial, and this gives participants more time to develop their projects and so on. So the last Greenleaf Awards was actually scheduled to be held in 2020. And with the onset of COVID, it actually didn't take place until 2021. So it was the first time that we held a virtual Greenleaf Awards. And what we've done over the years is try to make it applicable and relevant to the time. So it is tweaked. Sometimes there is a theme. Sometimes we may introduce a different category. So in 2020, because the EMA was celebrating its 25th anniversary, there was a category that was introduced for nationals who would have contributed to the environment for 25 years or more. So we recognized those environmental stewards. So throughout the years, we have recognized groups, we have recognized individuals, and this can be from the private sector, the public sector, civil society, those who may have come up with innovative solutions to environmental problems. So it's a broad range of activities, projects, ventures, programs that would have been recognized throughout the year.
And I appreciate the fact that it seems so inclusive, but you said that
Yes.
that biennial aspect, apart from just allowing individuals to develop their projects, it also gives the opportunity to look and see who is a little consistent. Because somebody might have a good idea and then they do something and then, okay, well, it was a good idea, as opposed to saying, this is something that I'm going to follow up on. But you spoke of tweaks and you spoke of categories. Celebrating Climate Champions 2023 seems to have a focus on the youth. Is there a specific reason for that? Was it just time? Why that decision?
Well, yes, you're quite right. We decided to focus on youth involvement in climate change in 2023. And there are a number of reasons for that. The main one being that given the current trends we're seeing with climate change education. I mean, climate change is at the forefront right now as one of the most pressing environmental issues of our time. And we recognize the role that young people play in having to address this issue and adapt to it as well. In addition, the EMA is also the focal point for Action for Climate Empowerment. Now, the acronym for that is ACE. In 2021, the Ministry of Planning and Development would have nominated the EMA to designate these focal points, and one of the focal points resides in the Public Education Unit. Now, ACE actually is, it's the way in which the UNFCCC, or the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, carries out the work under Article 6 of the Convention and Article 12 of the Paris Agreement, both of which Trinidad and Tobago, we are signatory to. So ACE, basically, the main goal of ACE is to engage all citizens in climate action. And in 2021, as part of the Conference of the Parties 26, there was a declaration that there will be a decade of climate action for empowerment, right? So that is actually 2021 to 2031. And there is a Glasgow work program that was also introduced. Now, that program sort of strategizes as to how we implement ACE, and ACE has different pillars. So, for instance, there is climate education, there is awareness, public participation. So, those are examples of the pillars that are being used to encourage citizens. But notably, in addition to the priorities that are set out in the Glasgow Work Programme, they have identified key stakeholders that should be part of that. So yes, they've mentioned, public sector and private sector, media and so on, but youth has been identified as a critical driver for action for climate empowerment. So that's one of the reasons as well. It's also in line with what is stated in Priority 5 and Priority 6 of the National Environmental Policy, as well as the EMA Strategic Plan. So this context really is both international and local, having youth being at the forefront in driving climate action.
So with youth being at the forefront of climate action, and in the 1.5 minutes we have, who is eligible? So is there an age range? What is the catchment group for this year's awards?
Yes, there is an age range, and this was determined based on looking at our national youth policy as well as the UN definition for youth. So we're inviting individuals or groups between the ages of 15 to 29 to sending or to nominate themselves. Persons can nominate them as well for any projects, programs, ventures, or actions they have taken regarding climate action over the last 2 years or more. We've also introduced a second component where we are encouraging a video submissions, and that is the video challenge aspect. Same age group, individuals or groups of 5 persons or less. And this would allow them, if they have not done projects, it allows them to tell their climate story, and then we can share those. So there is an educational aspect as well to the Greenleaf Awards.
And that is something that we're going to come back on the other side of this conversation. We are speaking with Senior Public Education Officer Nadia Nanan of the Environmental Management Authority. Stay with us. We return with more. Ms. Nanan, it seems as though something was hitting your mic just before we went to close. We're hearing a boop, boop, boop. I'm not sure if you know what it is, so that you can mitigate against it. Okay, not hearing you. Not hearing you right now. Yes, thank you.
Better?
Yes, well, not hearing it, so yes, better. Thank you. So we're getting ready to resume.
Okay. Sure.
Welcome back. We are speaking with the Senior Public Education Officer at the Environmental Management Authority, Nadia Nanan, and we are looking at celebrating climate champions. So we spoke about groupings. I want to know how it is schools come into this equation now, Ms. Nanan, because originally we would have been thinking of youth groups, youth religious groups, Girl Guides, Scouts, Cadet Corps, environmental clubs. Do schools have a role in this award in the scheme of things now, looking at the fact that this is where many of the youth or the catchment area would reside?
Yes. So the GLA is open to individuals between the age of 15 to 29, falling into various categories. And one of those categories is educational institutions. And within that category, we would capture schools as well as tertiary level institutions and so on. There are other categories as well, public sector, private sector, civil society. There's the audiovisual category. If you've done an app, if you've created a game, maybe you have published some sort of document or toolkit, that is a category. There's a media category as well. Um, Dealing with both traditional and social media. So it's a wide scope, and yes, schools, for example, students may be involved in environmental clubs in their schools because the EMA has an environmental club program in primary and secondary schools. Owing to the age group in this case, it will be applicable more so to the secondary schools.
What defines success in an exercise like this, Ms. Nanan? Some people may talk about the number of entries you have. Some people may talk about the groundbreaking solutions that people may be submitting. What lets EMA know that, yes, this is on the right track from where you sit?
Okay, so I think it's a combination of different things. The proposals are evaluated by a steering committee that consists of representatives from different stakeholders, from NGOs, private sector, civil society, and so on. So they are experts in their own right. They provide a very broad range of expertise that would assist us in evaluating the proposals. So there is a criteria, and that, of course, will lend itself to determining the quality of the proposals that we receive. So I think that is one thing. We would look at whether or not this sort of impact the proposal or the project is having, whether it's consistent with sustainable development and conservation, applicable to environmental laws and policies. Is it showing continuous improvement? Is it showing aspects of innovation? So there is that quality component, yes, and quantity to a certain extent as well. Um, so in all, I think, yes, we would love to have a lot of participation, and that would show us that, here what, this is actually having some sort of impact on a large scale. But there's also the aspect of ensuring that they are on the right track content-wise in terms of coming up with appropriate solutions, mitigation measures, adaptation measures to address this aspect of climate change, and then seeing how that can then mushroom into them networking, forming greater ties to have a greater impact as well.
And it'll be interesting to see what is shared, what are some of the things that people are going to be entering with, and it might even be something to put together to share to the general public after the fact. But I know there's a lot of information that can be found on www.ema.co.tt. But in terms of those, the nomination guidelines, video entry form, the video entry guidelines, and talk a little bit about some of those video entry guidelines. Is there a specific length it's supposed to be, and are those inside of the categories as well? I know you started on it, but read and spell for me, thank you.
Sure. So we spoke about the nomination aspect for the projects, but for the video challenge, we've basically invited persons to submit videos, tell their story in 4 minutes or less, and it can be an individual or it can be a group of 5 persons or less. So what we'd be looking at really would be, the environmental content of the video, what's the impact, creativity, the technical production. So once the steering committee has reviewed those videos, they're going to select finalists and an overall winner. But we are then going to post those finalists on the EMA social media handles so that there can be online voting. So the video that receives the most votes will get the People's Choice Award. And we are awarding them with a GLA as well as $5,000 each for the overall winner as well as the People's Choice winner. And that could be the same person. So that's just in a nutshell. And the submission forms, the guidelines on our website, you simply need to complete the form. You could submit it via our email at greenleafawards2023@ema.co.tt, or you can drop it off at our Port of Spain or Elizabeth Street office. So similarly for the GLA project nomination component as well.
Ms. Nanan, we talk all kind of things so far, but realize we didn't talk about submission deadlines, because I can imagine people, yes, man, I want to be a part of that. And then, wait, no, when is the deadline? So please let us know that.
So for the project or venture program nomination aspect of the Greenleaf Awards, that deadline is on the 24th of March. And for the video challenge, the video submissions, that deadline is the 31st of March.
And I really like the fact that in terms of the criteria, the one ongoing for the past 2 years or more, consistent with sound and natural resource management practices. And even the fact that this criteria, I can see it being tried to work. There'll be some enterprising educators who would work that into their syllabus if it's not there already, and get the conversation going, even to the person who decides, okay, well, I'm not going to submit, but these are things for me to think about. And when individuals in school are having these conversations, many times those conversations redound to individuals or persons in the home. So there's this ripple effect, and I think that's one of the things that we can look forward to and exercise from this. But 2 minutes, please, is there anything that I didn't raise and you want to make sure that we go away with, or what is the one thing that you want someone to take away from this conversation?
Well, a reminder that I know we spoke about the schools, but for the project nomination component of the GLA, we are offering $5,000 each to the 2 best schools projects. So that will encourage schools to participate. I am just asking everyone, if you have a neighbor, a co-worker, if you know someone in your community who is involved in climate change education, or youth NGO or group, by all means, encourage them to send in their proposals, because it's creating a platform so that the public can see what they're doing. Yes, some people, some groups are going to come out with an award, but more importantly, there's going to be recognition, much needed recognition to the youth of Trinidad and Tobago who have been involved in climate education and climate action.
And I guess that's why there's this idea of celebrating climate champions, because even though, yes, like you said, some individuals, not everyone may get that award, there's that recognition, but everyone comes out a winner when we do things for the environment. I want to thank you so much, Nadia Nanan, Senior Public Education Officer at the Environmental Management Authority, looking at the Greenleaf Awards for 2023. And on behalf of the entire TTT News team, I'm Dike Rostant. Thank you so much for joining us.